Welcome and thanks for tuning in to our DRL mini webinar series. My name is Saria Sok, and next to me I have my teammates, Dylan Diggs and Giovanni Dazzo. Today we're focusing on program design by using logic models. There are multiple M&E tools to frame project design, such as log frames, theories of change, results chain, and more. Today we'll be focusing on a logic model template. This is provided on our website, as many organizations are familiar with this style of design. The information in our template also provides program officers with the necessary information they need to understand the logic behind your project is designed. Please note that DRL logic model templates are not required. It's provided as a sample for organizations that are interested in using it. Recognizing that logic models are one of many ways to depict a program's logic, we offer other program design alternatives that organizations are welcome to use. We simply ask that your program design models demonstrate the link between the solution you are offering in your activities and how that links to your understanding of the problem, as well as the underlying assumptions in your program logic. We will cover a couple of examples of alternative design methods before the webinar ends. But for now, let's explore the elements of a logic model. While logic models are commonly used in various organizations, we provide a template for organizations that may not have their own. Our logic model template includes two versions. The first includes M&E terminology such as outputs, outcomes, and impacts. The second version is provided in plain English, with a list of questions that guide you through the process. If you really hate M&E terminology, then the plain English version is for you. Again, appropriately titling components in your logic model is not the goal. We're looking at the thought process behind it because democracy and human rights projects should be designed in a thoughtful way. Both versions of the logic model are accessible here on the DRL resource website. When you click on the website, you can see Sample Logic Model Template and download both. The versions that are contained here, there's a first page that contains the traditional logic model template, and the second page has the plain English version.
Here is a traditional logic model that uses standard M&E terminology. In this version of a logic model, we've included guiding questions to show what is usually expected in each section. So here are some tips for dealing with the logic model. For example, starting with the problem statement, what problems or issues does the project attempt to solve or address? What is needed by the target population and what strategies will lead to positive change? What you'd include in this section is a clear articulation of the problems and the target beneficiaries of the project so that we understand the rationale behind the project. As you develop project objectives, state the desired end state for the target population, not how the desired end state will be achieved. The how should be covered by the activities. Now take note of the needs section. Here, we should not rephrase what we are doing, such as human rights defenders need training, or discuss a specific activity or intervention. In this example, HRDs need information. This is the need. Training is the activity, intervention, or solution that you apply to treat this need. Think of these as how a doctor would treat a patient. A doctor will diagnose the problem that the patient is experiencing, determine that the patient needs to improve the condition, and then prescribe a treatment to that problem and those needs. Once you have detailed the problem, objective, and needs, you will follow the logical progression of your program. This should involve the following. 1. Detailing the inputs or resources that will contribute to the achievement of the project. 2. Identifying your activities, or rather, what will the project do to address these issues. And then 3. You will provide anticipated outputs, or the products of these activities. Following this, then you will describe the outcomes and impacts, or these changes that will happen as a result of the program. For the section on assumptions, we'd like to highlight that it should cover the underlying beliefs about a project and the stakeholders that should be involved that link the logic between each of these columns, particularly the connection between outputs and outcomes. For instance, once participants are trained or a research report is complete as outputs, what needs to happen before the listed outcomes are realized? Alternatively, here is a logic model in plain English. Again, this template can be found on DRL's website. On the website, click Sample Logic Model Template to download. Rather than relying on M&E terminology, the headers and guiding questions show what is usually expected in each of these sections. You can use this template to go through the logic model and then plug in your answers into the traditional logic model.
All right, so now we'll shift our time into discussing other program design strategies. Organizations designing projects are encouraged to start with a logic model or an alternative approach, as we had mentioned earlier, log frames, theories of change, systems mapping, rich picture, prior to their proposal writing narrative. The most important part for us is being able to determine how you've outlined the underlying assumptions and the rationale of your project and whether those are highlighted within your proposal narrative. That's not meant to say that we predicted every little external factor that could balloon into an unforeseeable problem in the field, but you do need to see that we need to see that you've thought through the program design process in a responsible and ethical way. The takeaway here is that we just need to assess your planning approach. The actual approach is less important. Here we have rich picture. Rich pictures are usually visual and often hand-drawn. They detail representations of complex systems. It allows users to address elements that are known to them. And because of that, developing a rich picture is an iterative process, and it evolves as your understanding of the program grows. In this particular example of rich picture, the organization presents their program design for improving a police statement process by depicting the catwalk phases. In the catwalk phases, it details the different actors that are involved and provides some structure in developing the rich picture. These phases include identifying the client, actors, transformation, worldview, owner, and environment. For systems mapping, this is another visual method that identifies the parts and relationships in that system that are expected to change and how they will change. It also identifies ways of measuring or capturing whether those changes have occurred. When used in this way, systems maps function much like a theories of change. They illustrate where the changes are expected to occur and help frame and guide evaluations. In this example of system mapping, we have an organization that's presenting their understanding of corruption in the Democratic Republic of Congo's criminal justice system. Finally, we have outcome mapping. Outcome mapping is reflective of its name in that it focuses specifically on outcomes, which is defined as changes in behavior, relationships, activities, or actions of people and groups and organizations that interact with a program. Through a facilitated process of intentional design, outcome mapping establishes the vision, mission, outcome challenges, strategy maps, and organizational practices for a program. For this particular example of outcome mapping, we have an organization that is presenting their plan for achieving research excellence by defining their spheres of influence, progress markers, boundary partners, and expected outcomes.
Thanks again for tuning in to our DRL GP webinar mini-series. Look out for another webinar that focuses on M&E plans and indicators, which offers guidance on designing programs. Please feel free to reach out if you have questions using our team email address, drl-gp-me@state.gov. Thank you so much.